We're live. We're live and we're live. And we're going to talk about, all these Aries vibes that are still going. Make sure you can hear me okay. All these Aries vibes and the fact that we're now in Taurus season. What does that all mean? I'll wait for some folks to get in here. Let's see here. If you're popping in, just let me know what's up. Where you coming in from? What you excited about? Here we go, here we go, here we go. Here we go now. Here we go now. It's so funny. Last time I went live, like, there was so many people coming in and out of the house. Oh my God. I apologize for the distractions. But yeah, I'm excited because today we're gonna do a little different. We're gonna do a little different. We're going to talk about the planets because I've been getting all these emails, which is just so funny. Check your notifications on another device. I'm getting literally texts. How is this Aries season treating you? Are you okay? And it's true. Five signs, or five planets. Five planets are in Aries. I mean, there is so much motorboating happening with Aries right now. Hello, hi everybody. Hello, hello. We're going to talk about Aries and Taurus. We're getting into Taurus season. We're excited about that. What does that mean? And also, there's so many planets in Aries. So many. So we're going to talk about what does that mean? And what does that mean for you? And how to take that into consideration. Also, if we have any Aries in the house, if we have any Taurus in the house, please let me know. Please let me know what's up. Please let me know where you are. Oh, Capricorn. Love me a Capricorn. I'm married to a Capricorn. Virgo, we got another earth sign. Love it, love it. I feel like Virgos are some of the most misunderstood. I feel like y'all have some work, and y'all just trying to do the right fucking thing. People all up in your business. It's like, just let the Virgo do their thing, man. Just leave the Virgos alone. What's interesting is that in this season, we have literally, no joke, we have 5 planets in Aries. 5 planets in Aries. And what's up? Yeah. And we have 5 planets in Aries, which is a lot. I mean, that's a lot. We have, what do we have? Oh, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So, 7 planets, not including Pluto. 8 planets, we'll say heavenly bodies. And then you got the moon and you got the sun. So 5 is a majority across the board. So the majority of the signs are in Aries. What does that mean? Aries is the sign that it's the beginning of the zodiac, and You're going to want to hear this. Okay. It is all about ambiguity. It is all about the leap of faith. Okay. Aries energy is all about the leap of faith. And asking you, what about Virgos? We can talk about Virgos. Where is anything in Virgo right now? Let's see. What's in Virgo? Yeah, nothing's in Virgo. We can talk about Virgos though. Virgos, let me tell you something about Virgos. Virgos, the end goal for Virgos is to realize that you're already perfect. Now, to a Virgo, that's going to feel like a cop out, but it's actually true. And the reason why is because for a Virgo, I'm an anti-natalist. Okay, cool. Good for you. Do you, boo? But then leave, boo. Leave, my love. This is free will. But if you're having fun, whatever. Who am I to get in the way of your fun? Anyways, so for Virgo, there's this sense of, it's so funny because I always like to give the example that if someone falls, right? Obviously you go help and pick them up. And a Virgo will absolutely go over there and help somebody up, but it's not this mushy, like, oh my God, And even the person might be like, oh my God, thank you so much. But to the Virgo, they're like, well, obviously I'm going to help you up. Like, what else was I going to do? Right? That's the Virgo energy. Virgo energy says, like, you just do what needs to get done, period. Okay? And the reason why Virgos can get really misunderstood, because we're all on a path, we're all on a journey, right? You can have a sign, an energy, an archetype that has an end goal, and sure, that's the end goal, but no person is alike. No two people are going to make the exact same decisions. We're already making 30,000 decisions a day. 30,000 decisions a day. That's a lot of decisions. There are no two people that are going to make the exact same decisions for their entire lives, let alone a day. So you're naturally always going to be experiencing your own path. And that's really what it comes down to. You may end up in the same place or towards the same idea of the same place, but ultimately it's up to you how you want to get there based on the decisions that you make, right? So for Virgo, there's this feeling always, how do I do what needs to be done? How do I do it in the best way possible? How do I understand what is acceptable and what is unacceptable, especially in ambiguous circumstances, right? Are rich in creativity, I guess. Yeah, I feel like everybody is creative in their own way. I feel like creativity is something that is generally misunderstood. I used to work when I worked in the video game industry, there's one company I worked at where I worked with both engineers and creatives. And it was so interesting because the engineers would always take it personal when we would call the creatives creatives. They'd be like, what are we doing? We're creative too. We have to constantly come up with new solutions. We have to troubleshoot. We have to, we're like, they're like, all we do is being creative. So I feel like the idea of creativity has a tendency to be misunderstood by itself. But absolutely, right? Virgos do have to problem solve for sure in terms of understanding their environment, what is being asked of them, right? And ultimately, where that journey nets out is that you realize all of that preoccupation in your mind of what is right? How do I do this the right way? How do I show up in the right way? How do I present in the correct way? How do I execute in the way that is the best way? You're going to net out where? You're going to net out in realizing that you are already perfect. and that everything you do is as it's supposed to be, which is a very hard realization to come to. And it may be something that you intuit, kind of, it's there. Wants to, wants to poke its head out, but there's that fear of what will happen if you do things wrong, right? And and that's where, we go through our journey. It's where we make the best decisions that we can. We see what nets out, and we'll see what happens, right? But we have to ultimately show up in the best way that we can. And that is enough. And sometimes that, not sometimes, that's foundationally what is hard for a Virgo sign, a Virgo energy, or someone who has dominant Virgo energy in their chart, depending on where it's placed. Okay. That's where that part of the process of, you did the best that you could. And that is actually good enough. To a Virgo, that's like, that doesn't make any sense, right? That doesn't make any sense. So getting to that part and being able to embrace self-love and the imperfection of the self, and that, imperfection is part of the perfection process, right? That's it's a very important part of the Virgo journey. Definitely stress. I imagine lung, heart, headaches. I could definitely see headaches. And more so because we're in a state of, I must contain myself, I must withhold myself, right? What does that have a tendency to do? If you are, constantly being analytical, you're tensioning yourself, that opens you up to headaches, opens you up to maybe eye strain, into neck, right? Being able to, right? All this gets tight. And the lung and heart, I say, because obviously stress, right? Stress. If you know what HRV is, if you wear like a biometric, right? A biometric wearable, you want to look up HRV. The higher the number with HRV, the better. The lower the number with HRV, it means that it's a little bit, it's a little bit more difficult for your body to respond to stress. Okay. And so the lungs, I say, because again, if there's that withholding, maybe you have a tendency to not allow yourself to relax into full breaths. Right? So allowing yourself to flow can be counterintuitive to Virgo energy. Now, this isn't to say that this is every Virgo. Again, everyone has their own path, but these are things to kind of look out for based on the stressors that could be affecting the different signs, depending on what that journey is that they're in for. Migraine, headache, digestive. Yes, digestive. That makes total sense. Absolutely. Bowel movements, indigestion, digestion, like you said. Yeah, I could totally see that. I completely agree with that also, right? The whole intestinal process is designed for being able to integrate, right? You is integrating nutrition, integrating food, processing it, and then releasing, right? Releasing. But if you're not allowing yourself to release, right? If you're not allowing yourself to be at ease and allow yourself again to flow, then again, withholding, right? Withholding. So yeah, I can definitely see that. I can definitely see that. Let me just hide that Dodgers, because I'm not actually a Dodger fan, but I'm a Dodger. Like, I appreciate the Dodgers and like the organization and everything, but I'm not a Dodger fan, but I am in LA. So that is why. But what's interesting, and this affects everybody, can affect everybody, and we're not just our sun sign, right? We're not just our moon sign, we're not just our ascending. We have many aspects to our chart, and we're also experiencing the environment around us. So, in the seasons, so even if, right, even if you have no Aries in your chart, you cannot help but be in Aries season because that is the Aries season. Now we've transitioned into Taurus season. Okay. So what does that mean? It's so interesting because there's so many planets that are still in Aries, and yet the sun has squeaked into Taurus season. And I love this transition because, you know, every sign is kind of a progression of a journey and a story being told. Hi, how's it going? And so there's always something to learn from the previous sign to ultimately help us progress into the next sign. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. And when it's the first, and this applies to everybody, what do we have a tendency to do when we're first embarking on a journey, an idea? We know nothing. We know nothing. So, what is being asked of us on a primitive level? What is being asked of us? We're being asked to have courage. We're being asked to embrace the leap of faith because we have nothing else to go on. Aries wants us to have the courage to reach for courage. Okay. So these 5 planets that have been in Aries and now we're squeaking over into Taurus, depending on how this has been affecting you, how might this have been affecting you? Either in having a little more courage to speak up, having a little more courage to pursue the goals or the maybe career goals or social goals, just having a little more courage to show up for yourself and what you want for yourself, right? Aries has that air of being selfish, but it can't help it, right? Because it has nothing else to go on. It has to go based on this primitive instinct of what direction it needs to ultimately fall in, right? And it's only when we take that leap of faith that we are doing right by that sign. Now, what does that mean moving into Taurus? Taurus is a sign that is most commonly associated with home, comfort, right? Home, comfort, routine, right? Taurus, that's kind of the sign's happy place. But the shadow side to that can be getting too comfortable. Sounds like any med side effect. Nice, Jeremy, nice. It happens. feel like in the when we're watching those commercials and it's like may cause my husband and I, my kids were always laughing. It's like we're like may cause wrist pain, may cause headaches, may cause a limp. It's like, yeah, it may cause a lot of things. But yeah, so moving into Taurus, you know, all this energy that can happen when you're embarking on a journey, when you're doing right by yourself, when you're hyper motivated. Okay. Everyone has experienced this. When you're hyper motivated and you're like, okay, I'm going to do the thing. I'm going to focus. This is what I'm going to do, right? You come up with the plan to do the best that you can. Da, 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 you've got all this energy, right? You're hyper motivated. And then at a certain point, because it's inevitable, okay, you kind of fall flat on your face. Something doesn't turn out the way that you wanted. Somebody says something that you weren't expecting them to say. And the wind kind of gets knocked out of your sails, right? That's one thing that can happen. The other thing is you just get tired because you're not a machine, okay? The point is ebb and flow, ebb and flow. Taurus is that part of the process that says, I need to take a beat. I need to get back to maybe my roots. I need to get back to remembering who I am I need to just relax. I need R&R, right? I need, what is it? Relaxation and rejuvenation, I believe is what R&R means. Now we're kind of moving into Taurus season. We're just starting. And depending on where you are in your journey, right? Maybe you got really, really excited, really hyper motivated, and now you're experiencing some deviations from the plan. Also, maybe you're feeling really good about yourself. Maybe you've learned a lot about yourself. This is the ideal, that when we take a leap of faith, when we have the courage to reach for courage, okay, that we learn something about ourselves. If that's it, that's really genuinely, truly all that matters. Is that you simply learn more about who you are. Why? Because you're the only person that can do that. You're the only person that can do that for yourself. You are genuinely the only person who is responsible for you and your decisions. So it is part, naturally, it's just baked in to your journey, that you are going to be making decisions, and 8 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10, it's not going to be what you thought was going to happen. And so then the question is, how will you pivot? How will you react to maybe the disappointment? Will it be a disappointment? Is it an opportunity to reanalyze? Maybe you had a backup plan. Maybe that backup plan doesn't work anymore. Maybe now you have to become more strategic. Maybe you realize you're like really hyper strategic, but then when it comes to executing, it's a little bit harder. So it's really up to you to be aware of your own experience as a person, as a human, just living your life. You are the only person that can say what that is for you. It's better to know what happens to body after death. Ooh, you know, I don't. Oh, I don't know what's going on. You okay? Oh, yeah, she's here. Hey, baby, you're here. Let me see my dog. Do I have cough drops? Yes, we do. We have cough drops. Hello, puppy. Hello, cutie pie. She's like, I'm tired. Why is everybody looking for me? Because if we don't know where you are, you might be peeing. Might be peeing in the corner, and we need to know where you are. Um, you know, I'm a big fan of the phrase, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think we say that enough as a society. I don't know. But I do know a few things, just a few, and a couple things. And there's huge widening gaps. I think a lot of things depend on your belief systems. And I'm not going to tell anybody different, because I believe that everybody has a right to believe what they want to believe. Okay. Oh, is Mario coming? Ow. Doing a little AirPod switch. There was a little confusion at the gym today. And I think it's important to respect people's opinions when it comes to the great mysteries of life. I also believe it's important to stay curious. And if you want to believe that nothing happens after death, I think that that's okay. I think it's okay for people to believe what they want to believe. If you want to believe that once you pass on, that your ancestors will be there to welcome you into the next phase of life, I also think that that's okay, right? Honestly, I don't know. And I'm not going to act like I do know. But I do know that it's important for everyone to experience what it means for them to. I think it's important because really what that is, that question, is a curiosity and a desire for closure around death. That question really says, how do I feel about death? And I think that that's ultimately what it comes down to. And I think that everyone has to go through that experience themselves. And when I say that experience, not just talking about dying. I'm talking about like, what does death mean to you? And how does that play a part in your life? And what kind of impact does it have? Is it a positive impact? Is it a negative impact? And why is that? And allowing ourselves to go down the path of understanding more of ourselves through how we feel about something so finite and something so definitive. I mean, we're absolutely going to die. It's absolutely going to happen. I have almost died. God, more times than I can count. Honestly, I'm like, I think five, but I. It's definitely more than that. Definitely, definitely. And I've had to kind of understand what that means for me. Literally, from the absolute most fluke experiences of the light turns green and it's time for me to go, but something happens and my shoe, and I'm sitting there for an extra 3 seconds and I'm like, oh my God, I gotta go. And I'm trying to fix myself. And then massive truck just running a full red light. Not even like yellow to red, like it was red for a while. And realizing that me and my rinky dink little car would have instantly died. And you kind of have to figure out for yourself like what that means to you. And nobody can go through that self reflection except for you. So yeah, I'm not going to act like I know what happens after death, but I do know that it is important for each person to understand what death means to them. And right, if they do have a belief system around it, either culturally, personally, or otherwise, that should be respected, especially because it's such a big question. It's one of the great mysteries of life. And nobody can act like they know exactly what happens. In fact, I don't think the same thing happens to everybody. And I think that that's why it's hard to be like, this is what happens. Right? I think it depends on a lot of things. So, yeah, that's what I say about it. How do you feel about death? How do you feel about death? It's such a good question. Like I said, and I've had friends who have passed in lots of different types of ways. Death has a tendency to follow me in a way where I'm able to support people and also help them in their passing and as they're coming to terms with their own mortality. It's very, very, very powerful, and it's one of those things where you realize how little things that we worry about, like 90% of the things that we worry about in our day to day actually don't matter. It actually doesn't matter. When you're on your deathbed, it doesn't matter, right? What matters is like, going back to this Aries conversation, did you have the courage to reach for courage? And that's something that so many people do talk about on their deathbed, is like wishing that they had the nerve to live their life more authentically. I mean, they do a lot of these studies where they ask people kind of like, what are their regrets? What do they wish they did differently? And a lot of it has to do with that. It's just like having the courage to show up for who you are in your joy and your happiness, in whatever way that means for you, but to live your life without the fear of being judged by others, ultimately, ultimately. And then what's nice is as we are entering into this Taurus season, it's like finding home, I feel like is what I'm hearing, is like finding home in ourselves. We we must be our own comfort. We must learn how to love ourselves and accept ourselves. I feel that the word love it's such a big word. It's such a big word, and And it's so hard to like quantify exactly what is love, what is love. And it's so easy to say, I love you. And we can have this feeling, I love them, right? Or, I remember when I used to teach English as a foreign language, we would talk about love, and the students, my more advanced students, would be so annoyed. They'd be like, you Americans. I'm like, well, there's a lot of Americans. We're in the United States. You cannot bypass all the other true Americans that are on this, the whole continent and South continent. But they'd be like, you Americans, you say love for everything. Oh, I love this ice cream. Oh, I love this person. Oh, I love this music. They're like, love is a big word. Love is very meaningful. Love is something powerful, and it's not something to be said so lightly. And while that's true, the only defense I had was that there's a lot of different kinds of love. And what I have seen is that what love actually means, true, true love, true unconditional love, what that means is acceptance and, ooh, this is where it gets hard, allowance. True love is acceptance and allowance. It means I accept you for who you are, and I allow you to continue and to be who you are. I allow you, right? I don't want you to change. I'm not going to ask you or expect anything of you. I simply allow you to exist as who you are. And I allow you to live and love your journey the way that you see fit, right? That's true love. It's very hard. When we look at it through that, it's very hard because, even in our relationships, like for instance, I love my husband. I love my husband, but we have a very strict, like we have to have open feedback with each other. We have to like be open to who we are, right? But also like be able to communicate when we're feeling a conflict within ourselves, right? So for instance, I'm like, I'm tired. I've been working all day. I've been running around with the kids. I've been doing this and that. Can you please help me with the dishes? Right? Can you get her changed? Can you please, and depending on how that goes, which it always goes well, it's always easy. But, if you're feeling like there's a contention, you want to have a discussion. But that is true love. And that is what we define as like God's love, right? Acceptance and allowance. It's like God's love is unconditional. What does unconditional mean? It means that it's a full acceptance and full allowance, right? It just allows, it just sees the beauty of who you are. That's it. That's it. So simple. And yet very, very difficult in practice, but it's what we strive for. But, and here's where it gets the most important, we need to do that with ourselves first. If it's hard to do with other people, but you expect it from them, you need to give it to yourself first. And that is literally like at least the first half of life entirety. And yet still it will continue after that. So you have to ask yourself, where are you at? Right? And when you feel that tension inside of you, be willing to be a little more curious. Why am I being so hard on myself? Right? Why am I being so hard on myself? Why can't I just accept? And that's why I have my business. I'm a personal and professional coach, and I specialize in self-development and leadership development, neurodivergence, and just major life transitions and transformations, because that's when that stuff comes up the most. Who am I? Who am I, and why am I struggling so hard? Why am I struggling so hard? Right? So this transition into Taurus season, which is so funny because we didn't really talk about it that much, but this transition into Taurus season is saying, okay, it's okay to take a break. It's okay to not just know what your hustle looks like, Aries season, okay? But it's also important to know what your comfort zone looks like. It's also important to have a place of comfort. Hustle, flow. Hustle, flow. All right. So now we're entering into Taurus season, which just says, right, you've been in hustle mode. And whatever the outcome has been, because even if say you checked off all the boxes, even if you checked off all the boxes, you still got to give yourself time to relax. You still got to give yourself time to relax. And if not, if you haven't been checking off all the boxes, you have to give yourself time to relax because that's how we burn out. Okay? So, if anything, if you needed a sign about anything, remember that when you are feeling tired, it's okay to relax. If you want to hustle, no problem. Hustle, ho. Do that thing, okay? But also know it's okay to give your feet a break, okay? It's okay to give your feet a break from the dance floor. All right. All right, y'all. Thanks for hanging out. I've been doing this Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, generally around the same time. I'm in Pacific time in Los Angeles. And so I like to go live around 9:30 a.m. my time. And then I start having clients around 10:30. And I have to start getting ready for a client right now that's starting at 10:30. So if you have any questions, don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell. Also, feel free to reach out on my socials. And yeah, I'm here for y'all. Creating this space as a safe space. And if anyone ever needs anything, please feel free to let me know. All right, y'all. I love you. You're amazing. You are awesome. And you are already perfect. You got this. Bye.